Hello, this is Keith Lisenby with Atlas Behavioral Health Consulting, and we are back with another video this week. This time it is about mirroring and labeling. What is it? How to use it and when to use it. So, have you ever been in a conversation where you could tell emotions were really high, but you didn't know what to say? Have you ever wished that there was a way to calm those things down and connect without making it awkward or forced? The best conversations that we have are not about trying to win the argument. Our best conversations are not about trying to solve the problem immediately. They are about making people feel heard and understood. 90 to 95% of the conflicts between people are as a result of people not feeling heard and understood in the conversation. Labeling and mirroring create emotional safety in order to build that connection and in order to build that trust. So, welcome back as we talk about this in deeper detail. And before we get further into this, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to this. That helps that wonderful YouTube algorithm work the way it is supposed to. And again, as we say, we are using two powerful tools today, learning about them and discussing them. These are conversational negotiation tools that are tools that work just as beautifully at home, at dinner, in the restaurant, at the casino, or in the boardroom, or at that important Zoom meeting that you were on just 5 minutes before you watch this video. And we will also show you, again, how these tools fit into a bigger framework that we've been talking about for the last several weeks around intentional empathy, using emotional intelligence on purpose to create real connection. So let's start with the first one. Let's start with labeling. Labeling is gently noticing and naming the emotion or theme that you're observing in someone else as they're talking. Again, it is noticing and naming it, that emotion and that central theme that you sense in someone in their conversation. Start phrases include it sounds like, it seems like, it looks like, it feels like, or it appears like. That's how you start the label. Why does it work? Well, simply put, naming emotions helps people make sense of what they're feeling. Again, it's that sort of labeling that Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett was talking about in how emotions are created. But also, we know, and from a neuroscientific standpoint, that when we label the negative emotions that people are experiencing, it helps to diffuse them or decrease their power and impact. And repeated labeling of negative emotions in another person will help to de-escalate them over time. Conversely, if we label the positive emotions that people are experiencing, it actually escalates the power of that emotion within the person that's talking. So it reduces the intensity of the conversation, particularly if there's negative conversation, but also builds connection and builds trust. Labeling is about slowing things down and saying out loud what's emotionally present and what's emotionally true. You might say, it sounds like you're frustrated, or it feels like you're overwhelmed. And then, key here is you pause, you let silence do its magic, because giving them that space in that pause after labeling is where the real connection happens. Let's go to mirroring. We'll talk more about labeling examples of that later. Let's go to mirroring. The definition of mirroring is echoing back a few key words that someone just said using a curious, gentle tone. Other words, more specifically, it's mirroring the last 1 to 3 words or the last important words that were said in a sentence using a curious tone at the end. Again, important here, keep that tone gentle and keep it slightly upward, not crazy upward, but just slightly. Again, these mirroring sort of statements or phrases, those last 1 to 3 words, encourages elaboration, encourages answering a question that was not posed. One key element in intentional empathy is the idea that no one likes to be interrogated. And so mirroring is a way of asking a question without really asking the question. It encourages someone to add more information. Mirroring feels almost too easy, but most people do better with labeling, and some people do better with mirroring. But each takes an practice over time. It's going to be awkward, somewhat counterintuitive for many of you at first, but practice and practice and practice will help improve them. But both labeling and mirroring is incredibly powerful. So, a slight example, a little early example of mirroring would be someone says, this project is overwhelming. And you simply say, overwhelming? No fixing, no leading, just showing them that you are tuned in. Why do these tools work? Again, the brain science here. Remember that emotions are constructed. In the episode that we talked about how emotions are created, and that's the fundamental basis is Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett's How Emotions Are Made. Emotions are constructed. Our brains predict and create those emotions for us based on body sensations and the context in the moment. Labeling and mirroring help people regulate and clarify these emotions. Another thing that we talked about in a previous episode is the 55-38-7 rule. Remember that 93% of the impact and power and influence of what people say is based on body language and tone. 55 body language, 38 tone. So nonverbal and tone matter even more than what you say. So the principle in intentional empathy here is always to align your tone, your posture, and your words to make it all real. When you label or mirror, you are helping someone's brain settle down. You're saying through your words and your tone, you're safe, you're heard, and you matter. This is how connection begins, and this is how connection is maintained. So how about some real life examples of labeling and mirroring? Let's start off with one of the most difficult ones, maybe for many of us, but some of us definitely a difficult subject area, and that's in parenting. So here's the scenario. You and your child are at the grocery store. Your child asks for candy at the checkout line. You say no, and they immediately start getting upset and visibly upset and crying, etc. The child may say, "You never let me get anything. It's so not fair." The label is, in this case, it sounds like you're really disappointed about the candy. And the mirror is, never let you get anything. Instead of saying, calm down or stop whining, you name their feelings and you mirror their words. That simple move gives their brain a chance to settle. And it shows you're tuned in to what's happening inside of them, not just trying to shut it down. Now, be mindful here. This example and the others that we're using here are, examples of a label and a mirror given the same sentence. Just make sure that you're not using them both in the same sentence. Also, with mirroring, you don't want to mirror every sentence. You want to mirror key sentences that are important for you to get a better understanding. Labeling can be used in a great deal of situations, but again, not every sentence requires a label. So let's move to a workplace example. Here's another scenario there. During a team meeting, a colleague vents frustration about the unrealistic deadlines imposed by leadership. What they may say is, there's no way we can finish this project in time. It's completely impossible with what they're asking. What's the label here? It seems like this deadline feels impossible. It feels like you're frustrated about not getting this done on time. What would be the mirror? Feels impossible. You're not agreeing, or disagreeing with them. And here's the key here. When we label and when we mirror and when we use intentional empathy overall, that doesn't mean we agree with the other person. What it means is we're trying to get a deeper, better understanding of the other person's situation, what they're talking about, what's happening, in order to build a better connection. Because paramount to all of this, if we don't feel heard or understood, then we are not likely to be open to hear the viewpoint of the other person. Another example, relationships. That's a biggie, isn't it? Scenario here. Your partner comes home from work, drops their bag on the floor, and slumps onto the couch without saying anything, clearly, visibly upset. What they may say is, it was just a rough day. Nothing went right. Possible label in this particular situation, looks like you had a really rough day. Looks like you really had a hard time. The mirror would be, rough day? Instead of pushing them to talk or offering solutions right away, you lightly name what you're seeing and observing, and you mirror their own words, opening a door if they want to walk through it. In each of these moments, whether if it's a kid in a meltdown, a coworker venting, or a loved one needing space, labeling and mirroring helps you stay with them emotionally without fixing, without rushing. That is what intentional empathy is all about. In conclusion, labeling is gently naming feelings and observations. It seems like, it looks like, it feels like, it appears like. Mirroring is echoing the key words with care, specifically the last 1 to 3 words in a sentence in an acquisitive tone in order to get more elaboration. Together, it builds emotional safety and a deeper connection. So I encourage all of you that's listening here to give this all a try. Practice and practice and practice if you wish to use this. At first, it'll seem awkward, as I said, but after time, you'll get better and better at it, just like with anything else that requires practice. Use one label and one mirror this week in a real conversation. Matter of fact, I'd do it once a day in a real conversation, not just once this week. I would do it every day. One label and one mirror in a conversation. Notice even how the small shifts in this communication, in your communication, create big emotional openings. All right. So here's your challenge again. Pick one real conversation each day, use one label, one mirror, then pause. Remember that pause though. And I'm going to have an episode in another week coming up about pausing and silence and how silence can be one of your best friends when it comes to building empathy. You might be amazed again at how powerful, how small these intentional moments are of empathy can be. Thank you so much. Again, if you liked this video, please share it with somebody. Please leave a comment. Please like it. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us at Atlas Behavioral Health Consulting in a huge way. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and everything that you're putting into this. Keep listening with everything you got, your whole heart. And I'll talk to you next time.